it was always like storytelling was my priority. Yeah, I knew that. Yeah.
Well, like, what do you think sparked that storytelling? Like, what do you think caught that interest? Would like, do you think it was your parents because they were journalists, or you were always around it?
I think it was a number of things really. Like I don't know if there's like any one thing I can pinpoint to so much as like I've just always gravitated towards that. Like I've never been a sports person. And I like I said, I always loved movies. Like there's even like my parents said like there was one Christmas where I didn't even want to I was like um late opening presents because I was watching a movie. So it was things like that. And then just spending a lot well, it's like I still always had an active social life, but at the same time, even when you're a sociable person, I think you know from, the world of disability, there are times nonetheless that are very isolating and like whether it's a hospitalization or just, things that, it's harder for you to participate in than others. So whether it was like for me, whether it was like, church youth trips or whatever, or things at school or like when friends started driving things like that, that there were things where it's like okay, I can't really participate in everything,
Mhm.
so I spent a lot of time watching movies, reading, etc., going to plays. But yeah, it was more just like I think it was there's not really any one thing in particular so much as it was always like in my DNA essentially of just like and you can see in my background here I've got like bunch of nerd culture stuff. But yeah, I mean, my parents definitely always encouraged reading. They're big storytellers as well. So yeah, I think it was just always in me in that respect, and yeah, it evolved in different things from theater to journalism, podcasting, writing, all of that.
Yeah. Like navigating these different seasons, especially like when you got into writing or school, like how has that
Mhm.
impacted you, because of your disability?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, yeah, let's see. Going back to school first. So yeah, I mean, I always like I did have like not that I was a perfect student by any means. I had plenty of times where I was like terrible at it, but I would say one thing about school for me was for subjects that I was interested in, I was always like really passionate about. So I always like loved the, English classes, theater, etc. I was always a terrible math student, not a great science student either. So like, I mean, there are ones I was, more, but I did enjoy school overall, and it was a good environment for me for, socially and just yeah, like being in that atmosphere. But nonetheless, I would say as far as the disability component, there were a lot of factors like working against people like you and me, and that's not so much of like oh I can't do this as so much as the inaccessibility in a lot of cases and lack of accommodation. So I mean there like in elementary school, even things like there was like a fourth grade field trip that I couldn't go on, and my mom like I had to really fight there to get accommodation. So it was whether I was conscious of that early on or not, from the get go, and even before that, well, even in like preschool, the I think it was either it was the school I was at or something else. They were trying to put me in a class that was all students with cognitive disabilities, which no disrespect to them at all, but I don't have a cognitive, I'm not effective cognitively. Like all
Yeah.
I have is like physical accommodations I need in class. So I'm not at the same learning level as, someone with a cognitive disability, and it
Yeah.
would not have been the right environment for me. And we had to fight for that because I think that was the systemic thing we saw early on was, people like administrators, systems would rather put you, off in a class of your own, than have to accommodate you into, an environment that fit your needs and fit your learning capabilities. So that was something we dealt with very early on, and it's something I've written about that, like, my mom really trained me how to become an advocate for myself and for others because like that's the thing. Like when it comes to advocacy and when it comes to navigating systems like this, you almost don't really have a choice. It's like, okay, you're either gonna be pushed around or you speak up and and you be kind of a pain to administrators. And she had no problem with that, and she taught me to do the same. So there was that aspect. But as far as like how like people have asked me before, like, oh, did like were you ever like bullied because of your disability or anything like that? And to be honest, like really, no. I mean, I think not that there weren't comments here and there, and there weren't times like that were awkward, and but as far as like growing up as like the only kid in a wheelchair in my class, stuff like that, I would say like the attitudes of people around me were pretty much like, oh yeah, no, that's just Kevin, like it's, I mean, and not to underestimate people who have gone through that, because I mean there's certainly still a lot of stigma, stereotypes. There a lot of disabled people who have had horrible experiences in school, and I fully empathize there. But thankfully I had a lot of friends and support there. I joke that any times I had any like awkward social scenarios or just struggles there, that was more my own doing, because like any 14-year-old, I was a pain in the butt. And so like that was but that really had nothing to do with my disability. But yeah, so like elementary, middle school, I would say it was just like pretty normal, because it's just like like I think the thing for me when I was younger, having like my parents as my caregivers, having extra needs, it wasn't as a big of a toll on me when I was like a little kid there, like elementary, middle school kind of thing, because yes, while I had to do things differently, at that time it was like, okay, well, every kid is dependent on their parents, right? So it
Yeah.
wasn't really, I didn't feel like super abnormal in that respect. It wasn't until I got to like high school and college that it started getting harder, because for a number of reasons, because like I mentioned earlier, it's like, okay, you get to high school, and especially like about midway through, friends start driving, and friends, go to parties, do all this stuff. A lot of things that like weren't inaccessible for me, right? So
Yeah.
that's when I started to grapple with all that more. Meanwhile, my parents, it's getting, a little harder for them to do all of my care. All of the, existential questions are weighing on me of like, oh, what is college going to look like? What is adult life going to look like? Things that I don't think I really thought about as much when I was like, 10 or 12. But once I was into high school and into college, yes, that's when it started to have more of a mental and emotional impact on me.